Yeah.
favorite child, and seriously,
Was it a mess?
no, it was, area, I think was a mess.
Yeah.
We never knew in our family who the favorite was.
There's no question, my family, the eldest, period,
Really?
absolute favorite, never any question.
How many siblings you have?
We're 4 altogether.
Where are you in the?
Third.
You're third. The third of 4. So the oldest was
Gone.
really?
Oh, yes, to this day. Yep, and my, she makes no bones about it. Just always favored my oldest
And
brother.
she flaunts it. She flaunts it.
Oh, totally.
But the thing is, are you okay with it at this point?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. It's the biggest joke ever. You know, he could be the biggest jerk and say, but it's okay, you're God. He's like, I know, like, yes, we just laugh about it now.
Does he live here?
He does. He lives in
Do
Wellington.
they all live here?
My sister's in New York.
Uh-huh.
Go to New York, she is visiting, and my youngest brother, the youngest, is in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
That's where I was born.
Good
hello, good morning.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom. She made it out on her own. Get it.
For all of us.
You'll just need a little push. To know you can do it.
When you sleep, it's usually like when you wake up.
Just wake up, usually before you are.
So I'm a snooze
How many times?
person, usually twice. But
I had to watch the service last night.
so usually the first snooze is like I hit it and I still fall off asleep.
I don't understand things.
Um,
It has no.
And by the second snooze though, I'm like pretty much up. No. And that second snooze woke me up. It was like,
My phone was okay.
I was like,
Did you see it?
whoa.
Did you see it last night? So
We bought this silly thing on Black Friday. Not on Black Friday, but I bought it on like Amazon, my van, whatever. It's like it's a sleep tracker thing. My sleep is horribly. So, it tells me these windows of like when I'm like in REM sleep and when I'm like, so last night it noticed that in that little 20-minute window that I was sleeping better than I slept all night. Was in the 20-minute window of the snoozes this morning. I slept so poorly last night. I actually got a fair rating on my sleep last night. But the last 20 minutes, set like that was the purple color. It was like, oh my gosh.
What keeps you awake at night?
I can't fall asleep, first of all. But that,
Do you read before you go to bed?
so it's a problem because Lisa is asleep and early, and then she doesn't drag. You know, how people drag their sleep like all I got with water.
She says she's
She's like,
going to
we're going to sleep. I don't know. So last night was like at 9:50 or something. So Shabbat shalom, good morning. If I start to see my light up, she's like, so then I'm like,
Did I do what?
Did I encounter one? Yeah, it's not on. He walked right through. The guy was there. And I said, I was holding everything. I said, I'm going to blow the thing up. It was not on. Or it didn't beep or anything. But the guitar case went right through and everything went right through.
You were standing there? That's so fresh.
I walked through nothing. Maybe. Okay. So just walk through and, all right. Shabbat Shalom, Bob. Shabbat Shalom, Carol. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom, Neil. I saw you sneak in there. Oh, I should put a capo on. Look how everybody stopped. Yeah. Let's add a capo. Yeah, see? You're like, if you're not quite ready, you need a capo, right? Okay. Love Hebrews. On top of logs. You don't like Jew food? That's crazy. We have. What will you?
You need a tongue expert.
I don't even like deli. I don't even love deli food. I mean, I'll eat it. I don't like this.
What do you eat in Israel? Shawarma?
Well, in Israel, I like Israeli food. So you give me hummus or makbucha or hamburger.
That's your mom probably made that.
Yeah, but I'll eat it. It's not like I don't like it.
Right.
I don't. It's not like I'm opposed to it. Like go to the deli, I'll have some lox, I'll have a bagel. I just don't. I don't like whitefish.
It's not, I mean, well, all those things you need them to
I don't like it when people like 3 4 weeks out.
Where were you last week? Missed you last week.
Yeah.
It's one of those days where I just needed to sleep. I don't get that very often.
No.
The same thing to Rod. Same thing.
He just snoozed. He just slept.
I just, and because I'm an early riser, when you're a nurse, you
Oh,
gotta
we
be an
missed you.
early riser.
Ready? Mode ani lefanecha melechai v'kayam shehechezarta binishmati bechem la rabba emunatecha Mode ana lefanayich melechai v'kayam shechezarta binishmati bechem la rabba emunateh Rabba emunatecha.
Hello and Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Good morning.
So
Shabbat
nice
shalom.
to see you guys. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit. It's been. So thank you very much. Thank you. Nice, thank you. Yeah, it's Shabbat. It's nice, cold winter's day here in Florida. Cold winter's day. I believe it was 68 when I woke up. So it was below 70. So Burr got the mittens on and started the car early to have it all warm for me when I got out. I put the seat warmers on. I got the mittens and the hat. Got the whole thing ready to go. That is so much a lie because I don't own any of it. I don't own. I remember. So I'm a Floridian. So I don't know. So then my first stint of ever cold living was in Indiana, and I worked at IU. I worked at Indiana University, and I remember that that my boss. So it started to get really cold in October because that's what happens apparently in the world. I don't know. That's ever. So I remember I said, do I need to buy a scarf? And she said, what do you mean buy a scarf? And I said, I don't own a scarf. she said, you're going to need to buy a scarf. It's going to be really cold. And I said, all right, what kind of scarf do I buy? What do I do? Her mouth like fell. And I said, I said, you're my boss, but I think I need you to come scarf shopping with me. I don't know what to do. So she came with me and she was like, this is a little awkward, but thank you. I was like, I also, since you're here, I need a jacket. I need a jacket. I don't have a jacket. So I remember she was like, here's a scarf to buy, whatever, it's fine. So the next day, I wasn't wearing the scarf, and it was cold, and she said, why aren't you wearing the scarf? And I said, I don't know what do I do with it? What do you do with it? Do you do it like this? Do you do it like, I walked in and it was like just hanging.
You
and
wore
she
like
said,
a tallis.
Yeah, I wore like a tallis. And she said, it doesn't keep you warm that way. She was like, you have to do this and put it through, or you have to do whatever. So if Margot, if you're listening out there, thank you, Margot. And she helped me pick out all of my winter clothes. And by the way, those are my only winter clothes that I still own, are the ones from Indiana. I don't own anything else.
Nothing like having to dress two little kids for.
I have never, and then from Indiana, that was it. I went to Jerusalem, which was chilly, so I had the Indiana weather in the winter. But then after that, it was LA, Phoenix, and back to Florida. So it's the same 3 scarves, by the way, and the same jacket. And so all thanks to Margot, they have lasted, and they keep you. Yeah. I learned that in Indiana. In Indiana, I went downstairs. I turned the car and I went back up and I finished getting dressed. But that was all trial by error. I didn't know what was going on. Plus, I didn't understand why the car was all wobbly, and I was like, when it was cold, and I was like, why is it so? It's like there's snow and sleet, and I was like, what? The car doesn't what? Yeah, that was not exciting. Okay, I don't know how I got on off that tangent, but it was chilly. I said it was chilly out. So right, so which it isn't, and thank goodness for that. So we are in Florida. And if anyone's watching from a cold climate on our live stream, sorry. We're going to continue with Matovu on page 172.
Matovu, oh halecha Yaakov, oh halecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu, oh halecha Yaakov, oh halecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. V'hani berov chastecha avo v'techa heshtachaveh el hechol kodshecha b'yiratecha. Matovu, oh halecha Yaakov, oh halecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu, oh halecha Yaakov, oh halecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
We continue with Nisim B'chol Yom, our daily blessings and miracles, 175.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nata l'sachvi v'naha lahavchin bein yom uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin metzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam הנותן ליעף כוח.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir shena me'inai u'numa me'afapai.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorim.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני ישראל.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen.
183 פסוקי דזמרה.
Baruch Sherma v'haya ha'olam.
ברוך הוא.
Baruch Oseh v'reshit.
ברוך אומר ועושה.
Baruch gozer mekayim.
ברוך מרחם על הארץ.
Baruch merachem al habriot.
ברוך משלם שכר טוב לרעיו.
Baruch chai la'ad v'kayim la'netzach.
ברוך פודה ומציל, ברוך שמו.
With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, for you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe, praise and glorious ruler. Your name is eternal. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal batishbachot.
185, little Ashrei.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, oje halelucha sela. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, oje halelucha sela. Ashrei, Ashrei, Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Ashrei, Ashrei, Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They will sing your praises forever. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They will sing your praises forever. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Oje halelucha sela. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Oje halelucha sela.
We move into slowly conclude Psukei de Zimra. That's on page 192 in the middle of the page with Shochen Ad.
Shochen ad maharom v'kadosh shemo v'chatu raninu tzadikim baronai laisharim nevat tehila b'fi yesharim tithalal uv'divrei tzadikim titbarach uv'ilshon chasidim titromam uv'kerev kadoshim titkadash Uv'machalot revivod amcha beit Yisrael B'rina yitpa'ar shimcha malkeinu b'chol dor v'dor Yishtabach shimcha lahad malkeinu Ha'el hamelech hagadol v'hakadosh b'shamayim uva'aretz Baruch atah Adonai El melech gadol batishbachot El ha'odaot adon haniflaot Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech el chei ha'olamim Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah B'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei V'chayechon u'v'yamechon v'chayir chol beit Yisrael B'agalah u'v'zman koriv v'yimru Amen Yehei shemei rabah mibarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarak v'yishabak v'yitpar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekodesho b'rechu le'elamin kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'alma v'yimeru
Amen. Continue with our call to worship. Baruch Hu 195. Together we stand.
La 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai ha-mevorach. Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach le'olam va'ed. La 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 la.
Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or v'choshech oseh shalom uvoreh et hakol. We continue Ahava Rabbah, top of page 198. V'ahavta 201.
ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך
202.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, Ber bnei Yisrael v'amata alehem ve'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem litorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf patil techelet v'haya lachem letzitzit uritem oto uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem otam velo taturu acharei livavchem ve'acharei enechem asher atem zonim achareihem Leman tiskeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Do a little poster.
Our Song of Redemption, Nichamocha, on page 204.
Yeah, we'll do a little poster. Let me see if I need it. Michamocha, 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 Pahelim Adonai. Mikamocha, 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 Nedar Bakodesh, Norab Tehilot, Osefele, Norab Tehilot, Osefele. Who is like thee? Who is like thee? God among the mighty. Who is like thee? Michamocha, 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 Bahelim Adonai, Bahelim Adonai, Bahelim Adonai. Sur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvdechinu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Go aleinu, Adonai Tzivaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Amidah 205.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanorah, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר בכמוך בעל גבורות ומיתו מלך ממיר ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
Continue with the Kedusha 208.
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך כל הארץ כבודו אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי אני אדוני אלוהיכם ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גדלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue silently now, here beginning on page 210 through page 219. When you're finished, please be seated.
Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Chen v'chesed v'rachamim Chen v'chesed v'rachamim Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Amnecha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha
We continue with Seder Kret HaTorah, the service for reading the Torah on Shabbat morning. We can find the beginning of Seder Kret HaTorah on page 244.
Ein kamocha ve'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam vaed Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim Heitiva betzoncha et Zion Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Ki vecha levad batachnu Melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim
246.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Udevar Adonai Mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Adonenu kadosh shemo. Gadlu l'Adonai iti uneramima shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod kicho b'shamayim uvaretz kicho b'shamayim uvaretz lecha Adonai hamamlacha ve'amid nahaseh lechol erosh. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah.
Please be seated. Do you want to do it now or want to do it after?
Do it after.
Do it after. All right. Okay.
Thanks.
The technology seems to be working, which is intriguing for the moment. We are in the Torah portion of Vayeshev. Vayeshev. Vayeshev, that is Genesis 37. Genesis 37. No verses to look for, just a big old chapter. Chapter 37, 37:1. Vayeshev. Exactly. Vayeshev, chapter 37, book of Genesis. You can find that, by the way, by going to Genesis and then going to the 37th chapter. You can go to Exodus, by the way, and then go backwards. You can go to Leviticus and go further backwards. You could go to Numbers and go backwards. You can go to Deuteronomy and go backwards. You could do all that if you wanted to, or just find chapter 37. In the Chumash. Yeah. I was thinking, would you be interested if we bought like 3 or 4 different types of translations, and every week someone would have a different copy of it? We could just rotate them, and then you could sort of see different books rather than everyone in the same. Just literally just 4 different books. So every week someone would just pick another book and try to be our different. Does it interest you? So you have 3 others at home. Okay, I bring a class set. I mean, I would bring like a set here, and then we'd rotate between like 3 different, so that people could read different, and you could decide. This week I don't want to read a different guy. I want to read from the book. This week I'd like to try on this one, and whatever. I can bring 4 different translations. We can have a dialogue about it. So since we all have the same book, I could bring a little class set in if you're interested for us to have. I don't know. I got 4 nods, so that's good. All right. I got a 5th nod. Okay, good. All right, so maybe I'll do it. So that's cool. Yeah, I was thinking like we could bring Hertz. We could bring the conservative one. I could bring. I was just telling Susie, this guy named Everett Fox, who is usually like totally out there translation. He's like in a whole other universe, but he's interesting. So it would be nice to hear what he has to say sometimes on certain topics. I could bring.
The women's comment.
I could bring the women's commentary, which we have. I mean, I can bring it from the office. So I have the women's commentary here. We could also do more like the Stone or the Schottenstein, which is more the more traditional translation of things. And it has some of those even have like thou and thus in it. Have like a fancier translation. It sounds so much better. So I'll bring a couple in, and I don't know. We'll have a little class set. We'll just have a stack of them, and people who want to try it will try it. If not, no problem. So, all right, whatever. All right, great. You can also, if you're interested in doing a digital electronic translation, you can do that too. You can bring in an iPad if you're comfortable with that in your Shabbat practice and have that here. And you could look at different translations also that way. I'm a fan of JPS. I always have this book, the Jewish Publication Society. They're my favorite translation, so that's why I always have the same book all the time. I just like how they analyze the text, but that's up to you. So all right, cool. All right, maybe I'll bring in a couple of different options, and we'll see. Everyone got so excited about it, so I want everyone to bring it down a level. Everyone was like, woo! Like all the cheering got really loud, and I couldn't tell who was like super more excited about it. So I'll see. It was an overwhelming response. So nice. Okay, great. Oh, thank you. Now there's an overwhelming response. All right. So yeah.
Sorry, we'll have to spend an extra 15 or 20 minutes.
No. I don't think so. I'm just thinking in our dialogue, because sometimes we say like there's like to interpret a verse. I just think like someone might have. I was saying that we could cycle it, like like on. Next week, you could have the Everett Fox. And next week, you could, whatever, you guys pick. And so we would just do Torah study, regular Torah study. But in one verse, you could raise your hand and be like, oh, this person says something different about this verse. And then we could just discuss it and continue. So I don't think it's going to extend that much time to our dialogue. I extend the time enough. So, yes.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I think it's very correct, because just last week, the translation was heaven, and you read the text and it was sky.
Right, exactly. So just think if there were 3 or 4 other translations, they might have all had different things for us to discuss, the similarities or the differences between how different translations. I'm just saying this is what we had to do in rabbi school. This is why we had to carry. Now everything's digital, but we had to carry on some days when we know that we had Bible class. We had to bring 6 different books with us because the professors always wanted us to do translations not just from our one source. So we had to read the Hebrew ourselves, parse it out, get the verbs right, get the structure right, get all that, and then also utilize, and we had to also cite, like, I'm citing this one because I think that this translation is better, so we had to use all these different translations. So it was fun. Yes?
Were all these different translations a function of different languages or different scholars
Yeah.
wanting to just interpret it differently?
Both. I'd say both. I would say that different scholars look at the text differently. Some are a little more they're more grammarians, so they might look at the grammar structure differently than other people. I'll tell you that Plaut, for instance, I feel like Plaut, for instance, wants to make it flow the most. So I think Plaut's going to sacrifice a little bit of the grammar for it to make sense. Other translations might be less worried about the flow and more about the content and the structure. And even though it might sound funnier and not flow as nicely, they would rather have the translation right as opposed to the flow right. But it's not that Plaut isn't right. He's 100% correct. But the way that sometimes the flow of a sentence will go and by the way, there's an old Plaut and a new Plaut. So everyone in here is using a new Plaut. If you have in your house, even maybe 15 years ago or less, there was the old Plaut translation, which is different than this Plaut, because this Plaut's also trying to be egalitarian. So he's also trying to make sure that there is no he or her or him or, right? So going out of their way to change the structure of a sentence also does that, which is lovely. However, it might mess with the flow of a sentence because of the grammatical flow of it. So it's just interesting to look at it. So okay, good. I'm mostly convinced. I'll bring in a couple. Yes.
So when you're in rabbinical school,
Yeah.
are you encouraged to come to the
Depends on the professor. Sometimes the professor is like, nah, nope, you're doing it this way. And sometimes the professor is, no, you know what, go and explore and do this project and have different explanations. And sometimes it's dangerous because if you go out on a limb, then they slaughter you in class. So it varies. So it depends on who your professors were and are and all that stuff. So yeah, and I bet that Rabbi Silvers would have a different view of it too, on how he had to do it. I know that Rabbi Kahn would have a different view on it, and any other rabbi would have a different view on how they were taught by other professors. So, for instance, one professor that scared me all through rabbinic school, she terrifies me. Rabbi Kahn loves her, one of her favorite teachers. So it's like, so she's still scary. I won't even say her name. She makes me nervous. So, but Rabbi Kahn adores her. So she said that she ran after her because after ordination you can go to all the professors and they can sign your actual like smicha. You can sign your actual your ordination thing. So she like beelined to her to have her be the signature, and I was like, I was not beelining to her. I was trying to avoid her as much as possible. I was going to say, even if she'd been like, would you like me to sign your thing? I was like, sure, you can sign it. I'm ordained now, so I guess I'm a rabbi. You can't hurt me anymore. You can't intimidate me anymore. Oh no, she still can. So yeah. Oh no, she's terrifying. Oh no, Ace. Thank you for remembering Ace. Ace loves me, so I'm good with Ace. No, this is someone else. So.
I found that sometimes Cloud tried to make the translation more modern, but it wasn't accurate.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like I think that Plout tries to do it. It's not inaccurate. It's not. It doesn't necessarily match up with the Hebrew exactly, but that's maybe not the point. Sometimes it's maybe good for the flow of a sentence. So. All right, enough of my tangent. I'm sorry. So let's do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. All right, so we begin now the 4-week delve into Joseph and his brothers. This is the first of 4 full Torah portions just dedicated to the relationship between these brothers. So, and how Jacob affects it, and how, by the way, in the feminist commentary, the first question is, where's Dinah? Because Dinah should be in here too, but there's no Dinah anywhere. Essentially, there's no Dinah anywhere, except for a little, whatever, in this insignificant spots. But, so we're about to begin the saga. So it is 4 weeks of the same story. So let's treat it that way also. It's not, sometimes Torah portions have connections that are good and they're fine, and these 4 weeks, literally the thread is designed to go and piece, every week should fit together like a puzzle. So like a messed up, super crazy, messy puzzle. Here we go. It's going to be great. All right, here we go. Okay.
Jacob now settled in the land of his father's sojourning.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Can you please say where we are, because in the transfer from live stream to Zoom, I didn't get where we are.
Oh, sure. Sorry, it's 37. Genesis 37, verse 1. No problem. Vayeshev. 37. Genesis 37. All right, here we go.
Jacob now settled in the land of his father's sojourning, in the land of Canaan.
That's okay.
This is the family history of Jacob. When Joseph was 17 years old, he would tend the flock alongside his brothers. He was an attendant along with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph would bring malicious reports about them to their father.
All right, so, okay, so here is how the whole saga begins, okay? So who are we talking about right at the beginning of the Torah portion? Jacob. All right, so let's just refresh ourselves about Jacob the last couple of weeks. What has Jacob been up to the last couple of weeks prior? Dreaming. Right, he's been dreaming, right? He's been dreaming. What else?
He left Laban and he met with his brother.
Right, there was a whole Esau situation, right? That's right. Well, what else? Yeah, Dinah is somewhere in the vicinity here, yes. So that's also a big complication, which sadly doesn't affect necessarily the story of Jacob, but yes, it's happening in there. What else specifically with Jacob? That's right, he wrestles with something, right? There's some kind of wrestling going on. He gets married, right? Obviously, who does he marry? Who does Jacob marry? Leah and Rachel, tempted Rachel first and then Leah, but ultimately Leah and then Rachel, right? So, all right, so we have this whole backstory on Jacob. He has kids, he's married, two wives. And he changes, he gets his name changed, right? So he gets his name changed from Jacob to Israel. Now he has two names, so good. All right, so we have the whole backstory on Jacob, just to make sure. All right, so he settles in this land, and now it goes on to say, all right, this is the line of Jacob, meaning here's going to be an unfurling of the life of what Jacob is about to produce here. And so, all right, now it says at the age of 17, we get one of the kids, right? And which kid do we get? Joseph. Okay. So it says, tended the flocks with his brothers, is what it says. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what your translation says?
Yes.
Great.
Alongside his brothers.
Great. So now that's what your translation says. My translation says, Joseph tended the flocks with his brothers, is what it all says. This is why translations are good, because the Hebrew says, Haya ro'eh et echav. Haya ro'eh et echav. Not ro'eh, not seeing ro'eh, but what is a ro'eh? What is a ro'eh? A shepherd. So the text actually says he was shepherding his brothers.
Shepherding his brothers.
That's what the text says. The text actually says he was shepherding his brothers, which is a whole different context for us than shepherding with his brothers, because that meant that he was attempting to do what?
Control them.
Control them. Excellent. So this is the different context of the Hebrew. Now, I have not met a translation that I like, because none of them get this part right. Only the Hebrew does, because it says, Haya ro'eh et echav. He was shepherding his brothers. So, and then it says he was a helper to the sons, blah, 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 blah. And not only was he shepherding his brothers, but what did he do right at the end of verse 2? He tattled. Whatever, he did this, or he did that, or he didn't do this right, he cut that corner, he didn't really tend to the flocks really well, this guy was on his iPhone, this guy was watching TV, this guy was watching Netflix, I was the one who was working, Dad, I was the one who cleaned up the thing, Dad, I took care of it, they were all watching TV, whatever, yeah, fine, okay, right. Exactly, and he also, right, there are two sets of families that are smushed together, because it's two sets of wives. So he also makes that relationship impossible for them too, because who is he the child of? Who is Joseph this child of? Rachel.
But it says these guys were not Leah's children.
What's that?
It says that his brothers were the children of Bilhah and Zilpah.
Right.
Not Leah.
Right, but so they were even one step even further away, right? So they're not even Rachel's children. They're not even Leah's children. They're the handmaiden children. So they're even further away for him. And why is he so special? Why is Joseph so special? Because he's the daughter of Rachel, and the son of Rachel, right? And what's the big deal there?
Rachel doesn't have any other children.
Well, she has one other. She's Benjamin, right? But what's the? Yeah. How do we know?
He tries to marry her first.
Because it says so. Because it says so. There's a favoritism system already buried within here, deeply buried within here, and so Joseph kind of knows already, I'm untouchable, essentially, because Jacob loves Rachel. Jacob loved Rachel the most of anyone. Some text says more than anyone ever in biblical text that Jacob loved Rachel. That the love that Jacob had for Rachel was unfathomable. So, of course, the two children that she has directly are for Jacob the most important things in the world, and so now we have Joseph. So Joseph is already, all right.
Rabbi,
Yes.
it says that Joseph brought malicious reports. Does that mean that they were not necessarily true, that he was trying to get brothers in trouble for whatever, maybe some ultimate...
Just as bad. It doesn't. I would presume that you're right. That I would presume that he went out of his way to also make it even more, take the news and make it even seem worse and worse and worse and worse. But it doesn't say that. It just says that there was bad news. Yeah, it just said it was bad. Yeah. Okay.
So that is the case of the translation, perhaps saying malicious, as opposed to just saying
Bad, exactly, right. So maybe it's setting a harsher tone because of the situation is already harsh, so that's in the hands of the translator, right? So my translation says bad reports. So yeah, so that's what my translation says. So for instance, if we had other books, we could look at it right now. See, it's not a terrible idea. Yes, see, wouldn't that be a good idea? Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
Yes, I was thinking, if he loved his wife so much, why was he having children with the handmaids?
Oh, that's just the way it was. That's just the way it was. That's just the way it was. It's a good drama series. It sells. It gets really good ratings. They won the Emmy for it. Okay. All right. Verse 3.
Yet Israel loved Joseph better than his other sons, for he was to him the son of his old age. He therefore made him a coat of many colors. When his brothers saw that he was the one their father loved more than any of his brothers, they hated him and could not bear to speak peaceably to him.
Okay. Oh, all right. So what do we got here?
Verse 3, he favors him because he was the son of his old age. It doesn't say because he was the son of his best love.
Right. It's interesting. It's interesting. It does not say that. That's true. It does not say that. It just says that it's of his old age. Now, one could take the leap because all the other children were already born. So one could take the leap that he's referring to Rachel, but you don't have to take that leap if you don't want to. Right. It just says in his old age. So yes, because all the other kids were already born. Except Benjamin's already. No, that's right. You're right. Except for Benjamin. Right. Yes. Okay. All right. So now, by the way, what's interesting about how verse 3 starts?
Yes.
His name is Israel. So, right? So in the other verses, he's Jacob, and now he's Israel. And I just wish I knew why. This would be so great if I could figure out why the Torah picks Israel over Jacob and back and forth, because it's going to happen all throughout the text. Sometimes he's Jacob, sometimes he's Israel. Yeah, I mean, there's clearly a reason for it, and there's clearly the commentary explains that Israel is the grown-up Jacob, almost to say, right? Because he carries the weight of the nation with the name, right? We are still the children of Jacob. It doesn't matter because they're interchangeable. We're the children of Jacob. We're the children of Israel. It doesn't make a difference. But the Israel, it bears the Israel concept. So because of that, some of the commentary says that he's the more stable of the two sides, right? So it's interesting that of the stable of the two sides, this is what happens with this. So right, so now Israel loved Joseph best of all his sons, which is, by the way, how many people have more than one child? Great. What's a great idea about doing that with your children?
Terrible.
Telling them that they're their favorite. Although,
It's clear in my family who the favorite
Okay. But you're okay with it.
I am.
That's the whole thing, right? That's the whole thing. So, in my family, I was always upset. I'm an only child. I'm an only child, yeah. I'm an only child. So, yeah. So I was always upset. So, yes.
It's important that we embrace the possibility that the stories are true, that Joseph is bringing back to Jacob. After all, Jacob is still recovering from the dining incident where some very bad things were done by his older sons.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should consider them exemplary characters. And perhaps Joseph is the one telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that the story could be very true, right? That the story could be very true. That maybe the brothers were not that great, right? How really could they be? Really, I mean, it's a weird dynamic. There are a lot of mothers at play. There are a lot of different siblings from different sides of the right, half brothers all over the place in different ways, and also how difficult to hear even the exact children of Leah or even the handmaidens of Leah, or to find out that you're really kind of the lowest level. How do we know that they were the lowest level? Because last week when he crosses the river, because he was terrified for his own life, he sends his family. He sends the family across, and how does he organize them? What the ones that were closest to Esau were who? Who were the ones that he put closest to Esau in the lineup for the family? He put the handmaidens of Leah closest children, then Leah's children, then the handmaidens of Rachel's children, and then Rachel's children. So it was set up that way also. It was very clear that he put them in priority order, meaning priority order if Esau was coming for a war, he put the kids who he least cared about at the front and the kids that he cared about the most at the back. So there are all these hints that are set up so to go back to your point, it's possible that there's a rivalry developing horribly already over time, that this isn't the inception of the problem. It's just a perpetuation of the problem. So, right, this is happening already. This is already set up.
And this is our forefather.
Right. So this is why I'm saying that this is why the Torah. This is why the only word I can think of about the Torah in these sections is delicious, because it's so real, right? It's so real. I mean, the building of the ark is fascinating and it's a good conversation, but it's complicated for us to wrap our heads around that. But sibling rivalry, or the conversations that we have about the tactics that we don't like to talk about, that we may use in our lives, or that we don't like to use in our lives, or that we know when we know just ourselves, when no one else is looking, how we're doing or what we're doing, and sometimes we're not, or sometimes the people around us are doing that and you're shocked by it because they are all trying to manipulate a situation and you're the center of the manipulation. But it's kind of real. It's a real story. These are real situations. It's unfortunate, and so that's why I like this section, because it makes the people in our text human. It makes them human. They're not perfect. They are far from perfect. They are quite imperfect. You can. Because not everyone in this room is perfect. Maybe some people are. But we see, right? But some people in this room are quite imperfect. So, I see, this was a good point for Harry to have jumped in, because Harry would have been like, well, at least one of us is perfect in the room. I feel like that was a good. Would you pass that back to Harry? Yeah, he missed a perfect moment. Perfect moment. So yes.
Isn't Jacob still recovering from his reputation being kind of destroyed by his sons and their actions after the rape of Dinah?
Yeah, right. So everyone's reeling. Everyone's reeling. Everyone's a mess. The situation is not great. And so what should have Jacob done in this case, as opposed to what he does do? Correct, right? In this already brush fire, there's no reason to pour a gallon of gasoline on top of it, and yet he does by saying, I just want to remind everyone that I have a favorite son, just to remind you in case you weren't sure about all my previous actions, and to prove that he's my favorite son, I'm going to go out of my way and give him this special coat. I'm going to give him the special, now, yours says what? What kind of coat does it say?
Many colors.
Of many colors. So mine says an ornamented tunic. Embroidered, right? So embroidered, there are about 7 different explanations to this coat in all of commentary. And so one of them, I mentioned this last night, because in Hebrew it says ktonet pasim. So ktonet literally just means a coat or a tunic, which are similar, right? We would say that you agree a tunic or a coat or something like that is very similar. Great, excellent. That ties back to the conversation. Right, exactly. So that's if I know about how to tie a scarf or not. So it ties back to the conversation. So right. So it's a tunic. My translation actually has an alternative too, and it calls it a possibility of a shawl. So it also says a shawl is a possibility. So there are a lot of different explanations what this thing is. Pretty much, it's something you wear, right? It's fair. It's some kind of you drape over yourself. It's something that you wear. Now, the translation literally says ktonet pasim. A pas literally just means stripe. So really, in a literal translation, one might say it's just a striped garment of some kind, right? So not necessarily colored stripe garment, but a striped garment. But all the commentaries jump in and also say that there might have been colors in it also, which is why that we think of colors, right? When you think of the coat, you think of colors, also because of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, right? So yes.
I don't think it really matters whether it was striped or colored. He's the only one that got it.
Correct. That's a very good point. It doesn't matter. So what the other commentaries, and I mentioned this last night, by the way, which is a commentary that I recently discovered, is a couple of questions. Why does he do it? Why does Jacob give Joseph a coat? Yeah?
Sforno says the coat was a sign that Jacob had marked him out for leadership.
Right. Okay. So there's definitely, not only Sforno says it, someone else says it too. Yes, there are a couple of commentaries that say that it's to point him out as the leader. Okay? So I suppose that can be the father's prerogative to do so and to say he's the leader. And to show he's the leader, I'm giving him a coat. No one else gets a coat. Now, that can be your goal, but every action has a reaction. So by picking the second youngest over all the other siblings and saying, this one's the leader and he gets the coat, probably creates jealousy, bickering, frustration, anger, hatred, all these different pieces. Yeah.
You know, in previous chapters we talked about birthright.
Yes.
Jacob, and here, I mean, Reuben was the oldest. He was the firstborn.
Yeah.
So there's no.
Nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing said about that at all. Right? There's nothing said about, right? And we also know, by the way, that what was Jacob's sole purpose as a child? To get the birthright. So he himself, from birth, has this sense of non-hierarchy of birth order. He doesn't care for that anyway. It's in the system already, right? So what about his brother? right? So Esau, like, where's he? Whole other story, right? So the family dynamics are already such. What about his grandfather? Who's his grandfather? Who's Jacob's grandfather? Abraham, right? And so wasn't there, who did Abraham have? Well, who did
Isaac, but before he had Isaac, he had Ishmael.
create Ishmael? So now there's another person floating around on two sibling system that isn't corresponding. From a handmaiden, right? So we had Hagar in that story too. So look at all this mess that's already within the system, and this is our DNA. So this is who we are. This is who we are. But again, I think it's beautiful because we get to learn from it, overcome it, not act like it. Sometimes are the people who we look to are the people who we don't necessarily have to follow. There are some people who are like, thank you, I'm going to pick the stuff for myself and my leadership style that I like from you, and the other stuff that I don't like from you, I'm going to not pick. So there are things that they did beautifully, and there are things that they were pretty complicated with. So, okay. So we don't know why the tunic is given. The commentary I mentioned last night, which we don't have to actually talk about because I want to move forward, I just want to mention it because it's this cool commentary, is that one commentary blames the coat for ultimately the slavery in Egypt. Because if the coat isn't given, the story doesn't unfurl the way it's unfurled.
And we die of famine.
And we possibly die of famine, or we don't, or we're not there, or something. We never get to Egypt, right? Or something like that. So we have to, the point is that, according to this commentary, the coat gets us to Egypt. Because it's kind of it's the catalyst that gets us there. So whether you like that or not, it's just an interesting point. That the tunic becomes a character in the text that changes the flow of where we go. The object does. Because what does this, look at verse 4. Right? And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of his brothers, they hated him, so that they could not speak a friendly word to him. Lo yochlu dibru l'shalom. They literally couldn't. And here's why again, Torah delicious. Just look for a second at the last Hebrew word of verse 4. Now, what's wrong with that shalom, if you look at it carefully? If you know the word shalom, the last word of verse 4, there's no vav. It's missing even the wholeness of the word wholeness. It's actually not even fully written completely. So they're even showing that the text couldn't even bring itself to write the whole word shalom. Even the words of the Torah couldn't do it, to show you that they were incapable of bringing the peace into the household with him. That's the level of the depth of the anger that the text wants us to see. So that is severe. It's not even just like go beyond the page, like dive into this. This is true, honest hatred, which is terrifying. That they hate him this much. But this is the situation that they're in. Yeah. What? You read ahead? All right. It's the first time I'm ever reading this. I'm just kidding. Yes.
And Joseph added to this hatred by telling him in dreams that they're going to eventually bow down to him.
Yes, what a great plan. What a great idea. So now we're on verse 5. Thank you. Go ahead.
Shall I continue?
Please, yeah.
Joseph dreamt a dream one time, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Do hear this dream that I dreamt. There we were, tying up sheaves of wheat in the field, when my sheaf rose up and stood up straight. Your sheaves then paraded in a circle around mine and bowed down to my sheaf. His brothers said to him, "Are you so certain you will reign over us? Do you really expect to rule us?" So they hated him all the more for his dreams and for his words.
All right. So, what's interesting? What's the different parts of this that are interesting?
Well, it's a precursor to when he's interpreting dreams.
Okay, great. So, first of all, we have the introduction now that he's a dream interpreter, right? So much so that we're not going to get there, because I'm talking too much. But we're not going to get there. But at some point, just before they throw him in the pit, they call him the dreamer, right? The brothers. So much so, literally, they're like, where's that dreamer? Let's throw him in the pit. They don't even call him his brother or Joseph or anything. They call him the dreamer. So yes. We got dueling statements. I like this.
It might be the same.
Oh, it might be the same. All right, Linda, you go first.
I was going to say that I noticed that, so Joseph's dream is important. Or
Yes.
his dreams. And Jacob, dreams were a big part of, of his story as well. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. The Jacob's dreams guided him on all his paths as well. Right. So for sure, he has for sure that he has the ladder dream, which is huge, right? Which is part of core text for us. And then there's the question on the following week when they're wrestling, because it's nighttime and darkness, and he's by himself. Like, is that a dream? That's one interpretation, right? So there's clearly a dream imagery going on in the family also. So very nice.
Not the same.
Not the same. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
So at the beginning of verse 5, it says, the translation says that Joseph dreamt a dream, and then it says one time. And then at the end, they hated him for his dreams using the plural.
Uh-huh.
Do we
Yeah.
make anything of the...
Chalom v'chlom, chalom v'gadol, it's interesting. I don't know. It's a good question. I would say it's just trying. Yours says, what does your translation say of 5?
Joseph dreamt a dream, and then in parentheses, one time. And then in verse 8, at the end, it says that the brothers hated him all the more for his dreams.
That's true. So that's actually a direct translation. It's a very nice translation of that section. My 5 says, once Joseph had a dream, which he told to his brothers. Yours says, Vayachlom Yosef. Yours says, he dreamt a dream? No.
Dreamt a dream.
He dreamt a dream, but which is actually a closer translation. That's a better translation, actually. Yeah. Yes, so that translation is actually a stronger one than this. Yeah.
Talking about dreams.
Yeah.
I think what we're getting here is a culmination of a lifetime of verbal abuse by Jacob. That he let those boys know for the last 17 years, finally, I had a child with the woman I loved. And I had to marry your mother in order to get there. And I don't think these are one-off, short-term things, but this was a lifetime.
Yeah. For who you mean for the brothers, that the hatred psyche was in there for a long time. I don't disagree. I agree with you that I'm sadly sure that that conversation probably happened. I had to marry your mother and deal with all of you so that I could ultimately have what exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it's a complicated section because it's what Jacob ultimately wanted. It was clear. We knew from the beginning, right? We had the Dreamweaver moment, right? When he like picks up the rock by himself and he sees her walking by and he's like, oh, he's smitten, right? And yet he has to marry Leah. So, exactly. Of course, there's deception on Lavan's part, which, by the way, that's why he's skewered in text. Like, the text skewers Lavan. He's terrible. He's treacherous. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, yes, and there's also a commentary, by the way, fast forward, because Rachel's going to die in childbirth, giving birth to Benjamin, right? And the fast forward is that that she gets buried outside the cave of Machpelah, right? So who gets the final word essentially is Leah, because Jacob gets buried with Leah and not with Rachel, because Rachel has her own tomb. So it's an interesting play on the fast forward. I'm not shocking you because we read this the last 100 years. A spoiler alert, but that's the ultimate sort of win for Leah, is that she gets to be buried for eternity. She gets to be buried next to Jacob and not Rachel. However, Rachel's tomb maybe is even more popular in the universe than Merat Machpelah, than the cave of Machpelah. More people, I think, visit Rachel's tomb than they even do the cave of Machpelah. But that's a whole other thing. Both require armored buses, but unfortunately, because they're both in the vicinity of Hebron. But still, so okay. So it's a great question. I think it's a grammatical. I think it's grammatical. All right. So So this section said there were dreams. What else does this section add to? By the way, that we just read up until 8. What was that section we just read? What else is interesting about it?
It's a prophecy.
It's a prophecy. Excellent. For what's a prophecy?
When Joseph is down in Egypt and they come to him and he's like this viscount.
Exactly. So it's correct is the problem, right? So as much painful as it is for everyone to read and for the brothers, it's going to happen. So it's right. So let's keep reading. Here's another dream. Here's verse 9.
He dreamt yet another dream and recounted it to his brothers, saying, Look now, I have dreamt another dream, and look, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. But when he recounted it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him, saying, What is this dream that you dreamt? Your mother, your brothers, and I? Must we really come to bow down to the ground before you? His brothers detested him, but his father kept the matter in mind.
Okay, what happened here? What happened here? He had another dream, right? What did he dream? Everyone was bound down to him. Everyone's bound down to him. Nice. Okay.
And what is it? His father kept this saying in mind, Shemaret HaDavar. In other words, in the back of his mind, he's hearing this.
He thought, that's weird. It's an interesting thing. Now, why do you think that's in there? Great catch. Go Rashi. Go commentary on this.
I think it's because he doesn't want to admit to himself that there's something about his son about Joseph that's not perfect.
I actually think it's the flip. I think that he thinks because Jacob is also a dreamer. And Joseph is now dreaming this dream. And I think that Joseph thinks, that's interesting. He's dreaming too. I wonder if this dream is going to come true. It's almost as if Jacob also might think this might be true. And you know what? It was true. So maybe Jacob is noticing something in his father's intuition, because he's also a dreamer, that something's being foreshadowed. Because it's going to be true. Everyone's going to bow down. Everyone's going to bow down to him. Not his mother. That part is true. So, also, What could Joseph not have done? Say that he had another dream to the whole family and the brothers. Like, Joseph, come on, Joseph, you really, he's also, it's very much his fault as well. A large percentage is, Joseph, just wake up and say to yourself, that was interesting. Now don't go and tell everyone that you dreamt again that they're all going to bow down to you. Do you think that's going to help your situation, Joseph? No, it's not. Right, so I guess he thought he was untouchable. Okay.
17. Yeah.
Right, exactly. All right, so now we're on 12.
And when his brothers went to tend their father's flock at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, surely your brothers are tending the flock at Shechem by now. Come, let me send you to them. He answered, here I am. Israel then said to him, pray, go see how your brothers are, and how the flock is doing, and bring me back word. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem.
Okay. So what's this?
Shechem.
Shechem. Yeah.
Shechem.
Shechem. Yeah.
Shechem.
Yeah. There's like it's a good morning word. Shechem.
Shechem.
Shechem. Shechem.
Okay.
What's 12?
Beginning of the incident.
Right. So there's about to be something. There's about to be some incidents happening. But what's Jacob doing?
Well, he's acknowledging that Joseph is spying on his brothers.
Yeah. Go and tell me what they're doing. So since you he's kind of encouraging it. He's kind of encouraging the situation and says, yeah. Since you're the spy anyway, go spy on them. So great, go. All right, so go and see. So now we're at 15. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's maybe one of the most fascinating parts of Torah. Okay, here we go.
There a man happened on him as he was wandering in the countryside. The man asked him, what are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me, please, where they are tending the flock? The man said, they left this place. Yes, I heard them say, let's go to Dotan.
Dotan, good job.
So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dotan.
Okay. One of the most fascinating pieces of text. First of all, this is another book I'm not going to write, and it starts here. So Jacob says to Joseph, go and find your brothers. He goes on the way. It doesn't say he gets lost, but he kind of is lost. He's kind of on the way, right? And what happens right at the beginning of 15? A man appears. A man appears. So what man appeared just recently? An angel, right? Who is this, right? So the man appears, right? To all of these people. There's this, is it the same man? Right? Who wrestles with Jacob? What's the text say? A man. The text says a man. Who are the people that show up to Abraham when he's sitting at the entrance of his tent? 3 men. Interesting. Who do those men turn out to be? Angels. Angels, exactly. So who is this mystery man who, by the way, literally changes history? Literally. This man changes all of Jewish history in standing in that spot. Because he says, go to Dotan. I saw them. If he's not there, if he missed them by a minute, if he says something else, if he says, I don't know, if he says, I'm not sure, if he's right place, right time, wrong place, wrong time, who knows? But there's a reason why the Torah puts in, because you don't need this guy. You don't need this in the text at all. All it needs to say is, he went to Dotan. Done. Because the brothers are there. Then the story would perpetuate itself, like it's going to anyway. The story is going to go on because he's in Dotan, because that's where the brothers are. there's so many details that aren't in our text. Why do we need this detail? The text could simply say that he said he went down to Dotan and he saw his brothers. That's it. It could be one verse. Why do we need 3 verses there? Why do we need this whole guy in there? Why do we need this? It's fascinating. This is one of these. This is again the book I'm not gonna. This is the book I'm not gonna write. Yes. Maybe it's God's purpose. So maybe it's God's purpose, which sometimes is great and sometimes it's scary because sometimes we don't like God's purpose. Like sometimes we don't like to be like the puppet in the God show, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's possible, and maybe that's what's happening. But sometimes we don't like the whole God puppet part because it's like I don't want to. We have free will. I don't want to have to think that I'm on a string, right? So perhaps, yes. Uh-huh. Exactly, because they weren't where they were supposed to be. Right. Interesting. What did you say? You said something in the commentary said. Yes, it's possible that it's Gabriel. Why could it be Gabriel? Why could it be Gabriel? Let's go all the way back to Abraham. How many men were there standing in front of Abraham? 3. All right, good. What was the job of the 3 of them? They each had a job, and they all had. This is not in the text. This is like super commentary. And they all had names. So the 3 of them had names. There was Michael, there was Raphael, and there was Gabriel. So those were the 3 that were probably the angels that were standing there. That's probably what the text. It's probably what the commentary is. So they each had a job. Raphael, if you know Hebrew, is the word rafeh is in it. What is Rapha or rafeh? Or heal. Excellent. So what was his job? To heal Abraham. Right, because why did Abraham need healing? Circumcised himself at the age of 99 with a stone. Ouch. So we need a lot of healing. All right, excellent. I need all the angels that we can possibly fathom. All right, great. So Raphael is busy. So check. Great. What is Michael's job? Excellent. His job is to tell Sarah that she's about to have a baby. And what does she do? She laughs, then we get Yitzchak. Boom, check. Now, what's Gabriel's job? Right, he destroys Sodom and Gomorrah. But he's still around because that gets destroyed, and the theory could be that he's still wandering after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he's still kind of wandering around, and he's the one who happens to show up in this moment and change the trajectory of everything. Which, by the way, I love. I think it's amazing. And it just depends on who you interact with, because you never know who you're going to meet and what they're going to do to change your life. You never know. Sometimes they're the worst person and they take you down a terrible path, and sometimes they're the perfect person, right? Because maybe it's your spouse, right? Maybe it's your closest friend in the whole world that you would never imagine, ever. My best friend in the world, ever, his name is David, and he is a rabbi in Los Angeles, and I met him in a program, and we just he actually was kind of helping to run the program, and I was in the program, and I remember it was in California, and we didn't have a car. I was with Lisa, and we didn't have a car, and we had to get from the Simi Valley, if you know California, the Simi Valley, back to LAX, which is not a short ride. It's like a good hour. It's at least a good hour, not in traffic. If you also drive in LA before, you know everything has to do with what time of the day are you leaving, because there's traffic, right? So I remember that we got in the car, so he drove It was me, it was Lisa, and some other friend of mine. Ultimately, the long story is she's also became a friend of ours. Her name is Deborah, and David's driving the car. And it was like that 55-minute ride, and we drove in silence for 55 minutes. And I thought to myself, David does not feel like driving us to LAX. So we shut the door, he jumped up, and we were like, thanks. The door shut, the car drove away. I turned to Lisa, and I was like, that was awkward. At least we'll never see him again. Literally the sentence that I said. Little did I know that we would meet up a few years later, and that guy who drove the car is my closest friend in the whole world. Because you never know what situation you're going to be put in to perpetuate. Now, this is the story that he told at my wedding, the best man speech, because he said, I'm standing with this guy, and he said he'd never see me again, and here I am standing and giving the best man speech at your wedding. But you never know. So who is this man? And he perpetuates the story, and we'll do for 5 minutes, what is the story now that happens, because we need this guy. Now we're on 18.
They saw him in the distance, and before he neared them, they wickedly plotted against him to bring about his death. They said to one another, here comes that master of dreams. Mm-hmm. Now then, let us kill him and throw him into one of these pits and say, a wild animal devoured him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams.
Okay. Look at this. Look at 18 through 20. What? Yeah. It's conspiracy. Yeah. It's not manslaughter. It's right, because this is plotted. This is literally murder. Premeditated murder is what they're thinking about.
And they have a motive.
They have a motive. Go into this text. Don't just like fly by these two verses and be like, yeah, interesting. This is premeditated murder by brothers to murder their brother. This is scary, right? This is very real. And they what is my translation says, here comes that dreamer. What does your translation say?
Master of dreams.
Master of dreams. Interesting. So what does it say in the Hebrew? It says Hine Baal Chalamot. Yeah, it's actually master of dreams is actually a better translation. Yeah, Baal Chalamot.
It's interesting that they're talking about him as the master of dreams and not Dad's favorite.
It's interesting, yes. My guess is because it's a good separation for them too, because I think they want to murder him. So if you don't call him our brother, and you call him the dreamer, the master of dreams, it creates a little space for you to think, it's okay for us to murder him. Someone thought of that. Someone thought, it's okay for us to murder our brother. That's a concept that I thought of. What? Right? And so what happens in 21?
But when Reuben heard this, he saved him from their hands by saying, let us not strike him a mortal blow. Reuben said to them, do not shed blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand against him, in order to deliver him from their hands, to restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his coat, the coat of many colors that he had on. Then they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it.
Okay, so if you just look at the detectiveness of the text of 23, right? It says when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of the tunic, the ornamented tunic. It's 2 times. Why 2 times of the same thing? You know exactly what it is. It could have just said tunic. We know it.
Well, it's what they're angry because it's such a beautiful.
Exactly. That thing that maybe broke the camel's back for us about this murder, like this thing, right? Okay.
Is it boar or whale?
Boar can be it's a hole. So a bore just means a hole. So it can also be a well because a bore is a hole for water. So yes. So yeah, it can be the same. All right. So they throw him in a pit. What significance does the pit have?
Well, there's no water.
Nothing in it. So what's that mean? He's going to die. He's going to die. So what does Reuben say, essentially? What does Reuben say? Pretty much.
Kind of leave him behind so we're not actually.
Yeah, he'll die. He'll die.
But it won't be.
But he won't. We're not going to literally just.
Right.
We're not going to murder him, right? We're just going to leave. We're just going to leave him to die, which makes you feel better, doesn't it? No, it's terrible. It's terrible. But he does rescue him necessarily. Little does he know. This is, again, these little key moments are going to then unfurl into the whole story. The pit, he gets picked up, and all of that, right? So, okay. So they throw him in the pit, and this is, we'll end here with this part on 25.
They had sat down to eat when they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites traveling from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with laudanum, balm, and mastic. They were heading down to Egypt. Judah then said to his brothers, "How will it profit us if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Let us rather sell him to the Ishmaelites. Then our hand will not be on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers heeded him. When the Midianite traders came through, they pulled Joseph up out of the pit. They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who carried Joseph off to Egypt.
Okay.
Are these Ishmaelites?
Ishmaelites.
Are the same as Midianites?
So they're together.
Are they?
Ishmaelites. Ishmael. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's them. They're in the fam, kinda. Yeah. So okay. So here are the parts that I find fascinating. Okay, let's murder our brother. Okay, no, let's throw him in the pit with no water. Then he'll die. Okay, who's hungry? Right. So that's kind of I'm starved. All of this conversation about murder has gotten me really, really hungry. Let's eat. So in 25, they sit down and have a meal, which is odd. And then who thinks to rescue the day even further, even more from Reuben? Judah. And Judah says, okay, let's profit. And also by profiting, we do what?
We clean our hands.
We don't even know what's going to happen to him, right? So now we have plausible deniability, right? So now if he dies, he dies. If he lives, he lives. It's not on us. Because after all, he's our brother. Oh, yay, what a beautiful ending. Now, yes?
Yeah, just imagine the racket that Joseph was making in the pit. They're sitting there eating, and he's, hey, let me out of here.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
Right. Right. So
Say something persuasive.
it's possible. It's very possible that it doesn't just come to Judah. It's possible that while they're chowing down, Joseph is screaming, "Hey guys, I have a better idea for everyone. Why don't you make a couple of dollars and not murder me, and also not just leave me in this pit to die, make a couple of bucks." Great. I actually think that's a great commentary, and it probably went down. It probably happened because Joseph is also not a dummy. So he knew exactly what I think Joseph is doing. I think Joseph knows what he's doing all the time. Just like Jacob, by the way. I think Jacob knew what he was doing every minute, well, everything. The only thing that was out of Jacob's hands was the switcheroo with Rachel and Leah. I think everything else that Jacob was doing in his life, by the way, Jacob knew what he was doing, and I think Joseph knew what he was doing too. So we're going to stop here because it gets us to Egypt. And Egypt is where everything really takes over. So, yes. Gail, go ahead.
I just want to bring up that it's interesting in the next verse that I'm going to read that Reuben comes back to get his brother out of the pit.
Yeah.
And the brothers don't tell him what they did. Was it because they didn't want to split the money? Or was it because they thought he would go find him?
Right. So so Judah has this idea without Reuben, and they sell him in the meantime, and Reuben comes back to the pit, and he's like, guys, where is he? Right? So it's very interesting that there's some miscommunication there also. So excellent point, Gail. Yeah, I think it further makes us wonder what's going on. So, all right. And then, by the way, the last bit I'll just tell you, right, is clearly is they take the tunic, they slaughter an animal, they put the blood on the tunic, and they bring the tunic to Jacob and say, look what happened. And then he makes the presumption that his son is dead. So, and then the brothers live with this for their lives to think not only did they do this to their brothers, but they also were okay to do this to their father, which is also complicated. So this is why the Torah is fascinating. And this is why next week just picks up the next level of the story. Next week is Miketz, which always, by the way, falls around Hanukkah. So Miketz is always somewhere in the vicinity of Hanukkah, and it will be Hanukkah next week, and we'll be doing Miketz. So thanks for a great chat on Vayeshev. Fascinating. We're going to chant some Torah. Robin's going to be chanting from the beginning? Yes. From the beginning of the Torah portion. If you'd like to follow along with Torah blessings, they're on 250 in the Siddur. And anyone would like to do Aliyah this morning? Any Aliyah takers? Aliyah takers? No? Yeah? Yeah? Do you want to do it? Oh yeah, sure, go ahead. Tamod Reuven. Did I get Reuven right? No, there's Reuven in there.
Yes,
Lev, I was so close. I knew there was Reuven in there. Okay. Tamod Leah bat Reuven v'gittel Torah. You would think at 6 years I would remember something, and I remembered a little bit. I remember Reuven in there. Okay. 250. Go ahead.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayeshev Yaakov ba'eretz migurei aviv ba'eretz Canaan. Eleh toldot Yaakov Yosef ben Shiva Esrei Shana Haya ro'et et achav bitzon vehu na'ar et b'nei Vilha v'et b'nei Zilpah nisa aviv vayve Yosef et dibatam ra'ah el avihem vayisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banaha kivan zekunim hu lo ve'asa lo ketonet pasim vayar echav Kyoto ahav avihem mikol echav v'yishneu oto v'lo yachlu dabro l'shalom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. With the Torah in front of us, we think of those in our community who are in need of healing, a physical emotional or spiritual healing. If there is someone you are thinking of and you would like to share their name, please share their name at this time.
Francie Cranen.
Arthur Friedman. Andrew Black. Leslie Winthrop.
Ethel Kattner, Stuart Fruman, Lawrence May, Gerard family, Sandy Tankus, Ken Tankus, Gail Gibson, all those affected by the war in Ukraine, anti-Semitism, other hate crimes, and violence.
משבח אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, חלב לאה, יברך את החולים. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם ולפותם, להחזיקם ואשלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, השתה בגלה בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion, for their health be restored and their strength be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. As together we all say, Amen. So let's raise and dress the Torah and put it away. We can all do it in one shot. So we're going to raise and dress. That's on page 252. And then we're going to go right into 256. So 252 is we're going to raise and dress, and then we're going to go to 256 to return. Anyone would like to raise and dress? Anyone want to do a little Hagba Glila for us this morning? We're gonna do the official duo? The duo, sometimes the trio? You want to dress? All right, we'll do a trio. Come. You all right, we're on 252, and together we stand.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki niska shemo levado. Ki lecha tov natati lachem, Torati al ta'azovu. Etz chaim hi lama chazikim ba, v'tomcheha meushar deracheha. דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
Please be seated. A couple of quick announcements. Hanukkah starts Sunday night. Yay. If you want to see our youth choir and visit, you're welcome to. I believe it's at 5 p.m. at Old School Square in Delray. They will be performing and singing on the first night of Hanukkah. That's on Sunday. Then there's going to be latkes and libations is on Wednesday. So that's, I believe that's at 7. So that's latkes and libations. Then this coming Friday is going to be the Hanukkah Shabbat that we usually have. So our service will be our regular Friday night service, but with some extra Hanukkah flair to it. There's also dinner prior. So come, I believe, at 5:30 for dinner. I think there's a pasta dinner, and then service, and then want to make sure that you get enough carbs after the pasta, and we're going to have sufganiyot. So we'll also have sufganiyot. Yes? Are both events outdoors? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is they're a congregation B'nai Israel. I got that. That's the only part that I got. And then, so there's a congregational Israel meeting. There's one more January meeting. That's on the 4th. I think it's the Thursday. Whatever day of the. I think it's the 4th. I think it's a Thursday. And then, if you didn't know already, Mandy Patinkin is coming to speak here at Congregation B'nai Israel. I know, that's true, yes. He was in Yentl. So he was in a lot of things. He got a Tony from Evita on Broadway. So he's a very talented, and I'm just, my favorite movie of all time is The Princess Bride, and he's in Princess Bride. So so I'm just excited. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. Yeah, so he'll be coming here to Congregation B'nai Israel on January 26th. So tickets go on sale Monday, and my guess is they're going to sell rapidly. So if you are interested, I think you should register quickly, because, and he was also in Homeland. Was it called Homeland? He was in Homeland. So he was in Homeland too. So he was in. And what's really funny that got him some really good fame recently is that during the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, he and his wife is coming as well, and so is their son, and their son was videoing the two of them through the pandemic, just asking them random technology questions and random questions, and they're hilarious. It's like mom is trying to explain the difference between the internet and Wi-Fi. Are they the same or not the same? And she was like, I don't know. Are they connected? And the son's like, are they connected or are they not connected? Does one help the other? She's like, why are you asking me these questions? Leave me alone. So all these things are on film, and so it's mostly on his Instagram. So now a lot of the younger generation is also watching them because they're kind of hilarious. So if you have Instagram and it interests you, you can also just type in Mandy Patinkin, and you'll see that he's all over Instagram too. Lots of funny posts that they're posting, and so that is coming up. And like I said, tickets go on sale Monday for Mandy Patinkin. All right, I think those are all the announcements that I have for us on this Shabbat Aleinu, page 282. Please stand.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liyotzeh breshid, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad.
We transition our thoughts now to Kaddish Yatom. We think in the period of Shiva, we think of Andrea Levy Goldman. In the period of Shloshim, David Zinger, Sarah Herschel, Philip Bloom, Judy Agron, Annabelle Silverman, Michael McHale. And our yortzeits that occur for us this week: Muriel Silvers Aronson, Michael Barr, Regina Big Air, Martin Koppel, Ruth Crum, Norman Ebenstein, Howard Eglostein, Samuel Goldberg, Albert Herskowitz, Helen Kaplan, Benjamin Kirshner, Elizabeth Galblavides, Renee Leonard, Nathan Lurie, Charles Makoff, Nathan Mayer, Philip Memel, Rosabelle Rosen, Samuel Sachs, Ethel Scalia, Fanny Schwartz, Storm Shaughnessy, Abe Silverman, Vanita Smith, Josephine Stern, Wynn Stern, Sydney Stone, Sandra Wasserman, Marion Weinfeld. To those names, we add any name that you'd like to add. $294. Yitgadal v'ikadash shmei rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chaye chon v'yomei chon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yeh shmei rabbah mevorach leolam olmei olmaya, yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shmei lekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Hey Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, as together we say, amen. Please be seated. We are going to conclude our service today with Ein Kelohenu, 322, I think.
Ein Kimalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Michelohenu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Imalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom, may God who gives strength unto our people continue to bless us with hope and strength and love and peace. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom. Meet us. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Happy Hanukkah. Meet us under the tent. Meet us under the tent for